Welcome everyone to, I would like to call this a special holiday Christmas review. And the reason why I call it special is because I really wasn't expecting to give any sort of ratings to my Christmas movie reviews, and I don't give ratings to horror movies as well. But the movie that I'm reviewing tonight was just so good, it blew me out of the water. That I'm right off the bat going to tell you that I'm giving this movie 4 stars out of 4 stars. It was just a perfect film. It's definitely now one of my favorite pictures of all time. Tonight's review is I'll Be Seeing You, and it came out in 1944. It stars Joseph Cotten, Ginger Rogers, and a Shirley Temple and at this point Shirley Temple was about 16. She's not the little girl with the curls dancing around, but so she's a young adult at this point in her career. And this movie is definitely a Christmas movie. It takes place all during Christmas. You see the Christmas trees and all that stuff. So it's perfect for watching around Christmas time, but it's also great for watching at New Year's time because we go from Christmas time into New Year's Eve. So it's just perfect for this time of year, guys. I don't think I'm gonna stumble upon a movie as good as this one for the holidays. But so this movie was directed by William Dieterle, and I've already reviewed one of his other movies, Portrait of Jenny, and it's interesting because Portrait of Jenny also has Joseph Cotten. Portrait of Jenny came out 4 years after this film, though, so Joseph Cotten would, of course, work later with him. And he's also directed Life of Emile Zola, which is one of my favorite Paul Muni films. William Dieterle really just has an amazing... he has just an awesome number of great films. So it's no surprise that this movie was as great as it is. And it was also produced by David O. Selznick. And I have some interesting stuff about the movie in Selznick's book that I often refer to. So the plot of the film is we see a beautiful Ginger Rogers, and she was gorgeous in this movie, seriously, guys. And she's on a train, and we see Joseph Cotten. He's in the military. He's apparently a sergeant returning from the war, World War II, and they're sitting across from each other. They get into conversation, and she ends up telling him, "Hey, I'm getting off at this place," and he kind of says, "Oh, I'm getting off there too." But it turns out that the only reason he got off there was because he wanted to talk more to her. He really enjoyed spending the short amount of time they had together on the train. And it turns out that Ginger Rogers' character is serving time in prison. She's serving time in prison for a crime that she didn't really deserve. I won't go into detail of what she did for the people that haven't seen the movie yet. But so she's in prison. She's still serving time, but because she's being nice in prison, she's doing her job well. Good behavior is what I'm looking for. For good behavior, they let her spend Christmas. They let her spend the holidays with her family. So she'll have to go back to prison to serve, I believe, 3 more years of her term. But she's staying with her aunt, and right away, Joseph Cotten, his character his name is Zachary, and Zachary continues to call up Ginger Rogers, and they go out on these little dates, and they get to know each other more. We learn that Joseph Cotten's character has PTSD from fighting in World War II, and he is trying to get over it. I want to read a quote from the film itself. I usually don't do this, but the writing in this movie was amazing, guys. The chemistry between Ginger Rogers and Joseph Cotten was so natural. In fact, every actor in this film, they performed so well that I totally would forget that this is a movie, because the writing wasn't sappy, it wasn't stupid, it was so natural. Even the way they flirted, even the way Joseph Cotten and Ginger Rogers were flirting together just felt real, which of course makes the movie so awesome, so great. So I want to read this quote. This is after they're coming out of a movie theater after seeing a war movie together. Ginger Rogers' character, her name is Mary, says, "Is the war really like that?" Zach says, "I guess so." "That's funny. Why?" And Mary says, "I mean that you should only guess so." Zach, "Well, they have experts making those pictures. I guess that's the way they see the war. A beach a mile long, and thousands of soldiers and tanks and machine guns and everything. I guess that's the way it is." Mary, "But it wasn't that way for you, huh?" "It's just a difference in size. To a guy that's in it, the war's about 10 feet wide and kind of empty. It's you and a couple of fellows in your company, maybe, and maybe a couple of Japs. It's all kind of mixed up. Sometimes it's all full of noise, and sometimes it's quiet. It all depends on what you're thinking about, I guess. It depends on how scared you are, how cold you are, and how wet you are. I guess if you asked 100 guys what the war's like, they'd all give you a different answer." Mary, "You know what?" And she says, "What?" Zach, "I mean, usually you don't like to talk about it. I never said anything about it before, not to anybody. I'm sorry. No, I feel kind of good." And this was so interesting, just this little dialogue between the two, showing insight into the soldier's mind after returning from the war. There's another scene later in the film where Cotten is asked about, his political ideas. "Come on, give us what the soldiers' thoughts are. What are you all thinking about?" And he basically says, "Hey, I'm just a guy. I mean, I can't speak for all soldiers," kind of putting the guy in his place. But I don't want to give everything away, because I want you to see the film, of course. I already talked about how natural the flirting scenes were and just how lovely of a movie it was. I will say that I definitely don't want to give the end away, but towards the end, I did start to tear up, and it takes a lot for a movie to make me tear up, guys. But sadly, Joseph Cotten's autobiography, he doesn't talk about this movie. It's unfortunate, but I do have a little bit from Selznick's book. So this is, David wanted Shirley Temple in the picture. He was paying her $185,000 a year, so he had to work. Was there a role for her? There was one, an interloper who horns in on the central love story, and it was built up to justify Shirley's presence. He really wanted Shirley Temple in the movie. And in this book, it focuses on Shirley. So 2 weeks later, there was a preview in Pasadena. With startling results, the film played wonderfully, but the audience didn't like Shirley Temple. Quote, just as it is apparent that we have a very successful picture," wrote David, "it is also apparent that we have a very unsuccessful performance and presentation of Shirley, and under no circumstances can I permit Shirley to be destroyed. 75% of the audience hadn't liked Shirley. Grad Sears of United Artists felt she was, quote, just nothing. And I didn't like Shirley Temple at all. She was just this little brat girl that kept getting in the way of the relationship of Ginger Rogers and Joseph Cotten. But she was playing the part correctly, in my opinion. I thought everybody in this movie was perfect. This film was perfect. And in the end, I'll Be Seeing You opened on Christmas Day 1944 in LA, and it cost $1.3 million and it grossed over $6 million. So this movie was certainly a big Christmas hit. Guys, every once in a while I stumble upon a classic movie that that is just special. It makes me feel all sorts of emotions, and it's like when I first saw Golden Earrings, I was just absorbed into the TV. This is definitely one of those type of movies where I just fell in love with the story and the characters, and I didn't want the movie to end, but the way it ends is just so beautiful and so perfect. It's the perfect movie, guys. It's one of my new favorites, but great Christmas movie, guys, and New Year's movie. So I don't know what's going to be next for my reviews, but it certainly won't be better than I'll Be Seeing You. But anyways, I'll be seeing you next time, guys.